Thursday, October 21st, 2021. Today on the Daily Review, we discuss 90s indie movie classic and one of my favorite gems of all time. That's right, it's Todd Solondz's Welcome to the Dollhouse. With your host, me, Joe Olaraka. What's up? What's up, everybody? So yes, I showed this yesterday in the comedy film class under the subgenre of outsider cinema, or I guess it used to be called in some ways queer cinema, even though that I kind of broadened it to not just encompass gay and trans themes, which are not usually mainstream. So these are the kind of movies that are usually made by marginalized people who feel marginalized, and stories that are away from the mainstream. And this movie is essentially, I mean, we talked about John Waters, Todd Solondz, and then like Spike Lee, some of the early Spike Lee, like romantic comedy stuff, where it's very clearly not trying to be your standard Hollywood romantic comedy, and it's coming from a different perspective, which I've always said is a good thing. Despite what some people might say, diversity is awesome, especially for the arts, I find. Anyway, so I wasn't going to show them a John Waters movie because I think that would just, I don't know, man. They're so, I think it's so funny and it's so punk rock, but it's pretty offensive, and I don't want to like hold kids in class and make them watch this. Something really, a movie going out of its way to be offensive. In fact, that's its point. But this one, I is kind of an entry level to this kind of outsider world, or atypical stories where the character that they focus on is not like hunky dude. It's about a girl, Dawn Wiener, who's new to middle school, and she just gets picked on all the time. She's a middle child. Her younger sister, everybody thinks is beautiful and a little angel. The older brother's really smart, and all he cares about is grades and getting into a good school, but he's like king of the nerds in the high school. And she's just wants to be popular, and she's just made fun of left and right. And this one bully kid keeps saying that like he's gonna sexually assault her and all this crazy stuff. Of course, he doesn't say it like that. He used the R word, which was intense to have happen in class. And the a word that's used for Down syndrome people is used quite a bit. And for me, and the gay slur that begins with F. I just don't want to have to say any of these. They're all said a lot, and for me that's not shocking because that's what my middle school experience was very much like. Like those terms were thrown around crazily, even all through high school actually. And I was bullied to a certain degree, and yeah, so it wasn't that shocking. And it was interesting how a few people after class were like, we're like the anti-bullying generation, so this was like a little bit strange for us to see this 90s world. She's like a good example in this student. She's really smart. She was like, a more contemporary version of this is Bo Burnham's 8th Grade, because it works in the social media angle, which is what is affecting people's self-esteem, as opposed to literally being like, you're a dog face, like right to your face. And I don't know which one is worse. I think it's probably being bullied like endlessly online, because in person it sucks and it's really scarring, but you get to go home. And then once this world opens up the internet, it's like you can't ever, it's always coming at you, because your phone is always this conduit to potentially being bullied. Anyway, I don't know. So the movie it's bittersweet, and it's kind of depressing, but it's funny in the fact that it's nostalgic looking back, and look at how mean kids are, and how it's funny now when you're like 10, 20 years away from it. You can laugh at like what your emotions were and how naive you were and what you thought was important in life and stuff. And I just think it's a brilliantly written comedy, really kind of dark. And it's like a dark, depressing version of Napoleon Dynamite, I would say, because it's kind of about this outcast kid. But now, outsider film doesn't just mean that the main character is kind of an outcast or an atypical protagonist for a Hollywood type movie. Because somebody after class was like, well, how come Superbad isn't an outsider film, or even Napoleon Dynamite. And it's like, well, you could argue Napoleon Dynamite a little bit, but they're both of those movies are trying their best to be, well, especially Superbad, to be like enjoyable. They're not like punishing the audience, and everything about it follows a very kind of Hollywood structure. I mean, they end up getting the hot girls and stuff at the end, despite being the freaks, you know, or quote unquote freaks, you know, or the weird kids that kind of, you know. And I just don't. I think that movie's super funny, but and I like it, but it's not real. And, you know, my angle with films is like real in the sense of hitting real emotions. I mean, yes, we're all horny kids and we like kids and stuff. Wait, that came out wrong. When we're kids, we're all horny and everybody's like, ugh, and that's all super, and we want to get drinks, you know, but like this movie, Welcome to the Dollhouse, is really about like the pathos of bullying and how it trickles down and how your home life affects your school life and how like there's a hierarchy of social construct based on like beautiful, successful people, and how that like impacts her life. And the actress is Heather Matarazzo, and she's like a producer, writer, director. And you know what's so amazing about it? It's so funny. She's beautiful now. She's just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, and in this, she's not like ugly, but you can, you know, she's not the traditional. Like, she's not Cameron Diaz or whatever, you know, which is the main thing that I wanted to talk about with my class. And I think I hopefully I conveyed it well enough. But these movies are all about anger. You know, these are people who are like, you realize how damaging it is for you to only put these like straight white male dominated stories out there and make it like only beautiful people can be in love and everybody else is a piece of shit. And if you don't live in like New York City and you're not wealthy or live in LA, then like you're some piece of shit. Like that, ultimately that is what a lot of movies, whether you realize it or not, is going on underneath the surface. It's always about, and I get it, I understand why we put beautiful people on the screen. I'm not fighting that, but this is the reaction to that. This is if one's the synthesis or the thesis, this is the antithesis. This is the people going, that's fucking damaging, because most people consider themselves dog faces, and this sets an unbelievably high standard for what they should be expecting. We've seen this go fucking astronomical with social media, but it's like these people were geniuses, John Waters and stuff, absolute genius to go, you know what? How about I say that filthy is beautiful? How about that? How about maybe you stop telling me what I'm supposed to feel like, look like, dress like, and act like with your very close-minded view, you know? Oh, not everybody has to be like Marty McFly, you know? Like, in fact, we're all different shapes and sizes, and what these filmmakers are saying is fuck you. It's like punk rock music. It's like, no, you don't even need to know how to play the instrument. You don't need to be able to sing. You just need to be able to get your message out there. And maybe it makes people uncomfortable. And especially people who are used to just watching kind of blockbuster movies will bristle at this stuff. But if you let it get in and absorb it and kind of analyze it from a more, I don't want to use the word intellectual because that's not really right, but think about it more than just its surface level, did that make me laugh, you know? And I think you'll find that the rewards are quite great. You know, I think Hangover is funny, but in terms of like writing, like they get drunk and then funny things happen. Like this is like, you know, there's nothing about the human condition in there. Maybe that makes me sound really arrogant, but I'm teaching a class on comic films. We can't just watch like goofy fart movies, you know? I have to also tie in movies that are made incredibly well from a technical perspective and have some sort of underlying pathos or message or something that brings it to what we put in the rubric of art, you know? So I was a little bit, you know, people didn't love this as much. And when I realized the last time I taught this class was the end of 2019, it was fall 2019. And there's either been a big change or just a different group of kids, you know, but this was one of the really popular movies when I showed it then. So maybe there has been some sort of sea change, or I'm getting a new generation, which is all fine. It's good. It's cool. It's all good feedback. And yes, a lot of them watched Sorry to Bother You for their satire at home, and they were all like, yeah, we totally should watch that over. They're like, that's a much better movie than Brazil. And I was like, well, I don't think that's true personally, but if it affected you more, then, maybe that's a subjective thing. So they're both very well made. But Brazil is like, come on. That's my argument. That's my intellectual argument. Is come on. Brazil. Should I play it? Should I play a song by the Quadratics? That's one of my favorite parts in this movie. We really didn't even talk about the movie. Sorry, I'll get back. Let's talk about that movie for a real quick second. But the brother is so funny. He plays like the flute or the clarinet or something, and he's made a band, and because he thinks it'll look good on his college transcript. He just got no real musical talent, but he's all right. And so it's like him and some kid on the keyboards and a drummer, and they're trying to play Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones, and it just sounds insane, because first of all, I don't think there's a keyboard in that song, or it's not prevalent, and there's certainly not a fucking clarinet in it or whatever. He's playing a flute. So it's a flute. Oh no, it's a clarinet. Yeah. And he goes, I don't get it. We're playing it just like the Rolling Stones say, and it doesn't sound anything like it. And it goes to the keyboard. He goes, it says B flat. I'm just playing a B flat. It's great. It's totally removing all the vibe from it, just trying to do it like a math equation doesn't really work with music. I think that shit is so funny. He's like, do you think when they first started playing it that it sounded good? So that's a big part of the storyline, because then they get Popular Kid to come in, who's super sexy, and Dawn kind of falls in love with him. He's one of the beautiful people. She thinks maybe she could be popular if he'll just have sex with her or have some sort of relationship with her. And she learns, who her people are. One person made up someone said something really good at the end, is how bad Ralphie gets it. If anybody who's seen this movie is like, Ralphie is unredeemed in any way, and he just gets made fun of. But it's two reasons. I don't think Dawn realized that he could hear what she was saying on the phone, and also it fits the theme. He's still on the low peg. He's going to get all the shit. Eventually, hopefully, he'll have some sort of epiphany like Dawn has, like this slight realization that it will get better and that I just need to rely on myself. It's me. I'm a chorus of one. That's the meaning I get from the ending. Maybe people say it as, the isolation is a negative thing, But to me, it's like these are like ugly duckling stories. They're like stories about caterpillars, because these are the kind of people who become world changers, in a lot of ways. Or maybe not world changers isn't the right word, but like they're actually fucking interesting, I do realize that the camera when I play guitar is like my hands are right below the camera, making it sort of seem like I'm not actually playing. But that's just because I don't want to have to like move the camera every time. But eventually, when we get a better camera, a two camera setup is coming. Eventually, when I get a new laptop. Okay. Let's see what happens here. Okay, just rocking this beat for like 3 weeks straight, but oops. baby. Sweet candy for my baby.